It is Tuesday, August 19th, 2014. The day after we all learned that Braxton Miller could be lost for the season and suffered a setback in practice yesterday with his throwing shoulder that's been injured for a while and had surgery in the offseason. I'm Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5, an emergency Bucknuts Morning 5. I'm joined by Steve Helwagen, Dave Biddle, and Alex Gleitman. Obviously, if these guys are up this early, you know something has happened. In this case, it's negative. Steve, could you please bring us up to speed on the latest from a news perspective on the Braxton Miller shoulder injury suffered yesterday at practice?
Well, yes, Dan. As everybody knows, Braxton had that shoulder injury going back to when he was brutalized in the Orange Bowl by Clemson, and obviously had the surgery in February, was out spring football. Supposedly was back throwing over the summer, but for whatever reason, when camp started, he was not right, and he wasn't going full go. He didn't scrimmage on Saturday, for instance. And the timing of this is just somewhat surreal. I mean, you look at everything that happened here in the last 2 or 3 days. On Saturday, Urban Meyer said they wanted him to turn it loose on Monday. Then at midday on Monday, Braxton Miller himself declared himself 100%. Tom Herman, the offensive coordinator, standing a few feet away, said that there was actually a setback with Braxton Miller early in the camp, and that's why he hasn't been brought along as quickly as everyone would have hoped. Kirk Herbstreit from ESPN declared that Ohio State was going to win the national championship and that Braxton Miller was going to win the Heisman Trophy. So against this backdrop, Braxton Miller goes out in the afternoon, and apparently not even a contact injury. He's just throwing a pass. His shoulder comes unhinged and dislocates, and as people have reported, various things happened. He went down in a heap in pain, was on the field for over 5 minutes, was seen icing the shoulder, and is due to have an MRI, it sounds like, sometime today. They probably had to wait a few hours for swelling or whatever happened there for the injury to stabilize. So until he has the MRI, we don't know how severe this is. It could be a 2-week thing. It could be a 2-month thing. It could be a year thing. You just don't know until Chris Kading, the outstanding orthopedic surgeon, the doctor for Ohio State, has a chance to really get in there and find out what's going on with the shoulder. You just don't know. It'd be completely premature to say. In fact, I'm reading Twitter right now, and Kirk Herbstreit feel very bad for Braxton Miller. If his injury is season-ending, Buckeyes go from national title contender to 9-3 or 10-2, one of MVPs to his team, and that pretty much sums it all up, what we know today.
Dave, I want to go to you next, and I'm not sure I was sure we were going to discuss this quickly today, but the news has spread so quickly, and everybody is already into talking about the next step. You've got, and the Herbstreit example is perfect there, that everyone has already taken away X number of wins. Kind of explain to everybody what happens now. Who steps up? Obviously, it's J.T. Barrett. What you know about J.T. Barrett and what your expectations are now if Braxton is sidelined for a considerable period of time. It does sound like, for whatever it's worth, the first month of the season is certainly in jeopardy.
Yeah, it could be a lot worse. I'm very bullish on J.T. Barrett. I think the Buckeyes are fortunate to have someone of his ilk as the backup. Is he going to be as seasoned as Kenny Guyton as a fifth-year senior? No, but his ceiling is much, much higher. This is a guy that is extremely accurate. Frankly, I was shocked that he was behind Cardale Jones after the spring, because watching spring practices, watching the spring game itself, you have to be careful to base anything on the spring game. We've seen a lot of guys have good spring games, but just watching practices, this guy is extremely accurate. Doesn't have the howitzer that Cardale Jones has, or even Braxton Miller, and Braxton Miller's healthy. Those guys definitely have stronger arms than J.T. Barrett. But he gets the ball in the right spot. He's very cerebral on and off the field. I mean, a lot of guys can be book smart, but they're not really, smart football-wise. They don't have high football IQs. J.T. Barrett has an extremely high football IQ. And I want to remind everybody, before his injury, his senior year in high school where he hurt his knee, he was ranked as the number 1 quarterback in the country. And he still finished like number 4 dual-threat quarterback in the country. So this is not some 3-star kid who looks pretty good to us. This was a big-time recruit. At one point was a 5-star recruit, and the only reason he didn't finish as a 5-star was because of an injury. And he's not going to be a guy that is going to kill you in the running game, but he's good enough in the running game. And one of the things I think that Tom Herman said that a lot of people glossed over was he's making good reads in the zone read in the running game. And that's the one thing I think Braxton really struggled with, and I'm sure Cardale Jones struggles with that a little bit. Braxton a lot of times I think would predetermine whether or not he was going to hand the ball off or keep it when they call it a running play. It's supposed to be, the quarterback's supposed to decide that at the very last second, depending on what the defensive end does or what a linebacker does. And it sounds like J.T. Barrett's going to do a good job of deciding whether to keep the ball or hand off. But there's going to be growing pains. I can talk in glowing fashion about J.T. Barrett all day, but he's going to be a redshirt freshman. There's going to be growing pains. He's going to throw some passes that we're like, what is he doing? But, this whole thing just completely stinks for Buckeye Nation, and I feel for Buckeye fans. But, again, it could be worse because I think J.T. Barrett, there's some level of excitement there to see what he can do with this team because everybody now is saying, oh, well, there goes the national championship. And that's probably fair. I just did something for Bill King, and I said, this probably takes Ohio State from maybe undefeated to they'll probably lose a game or two. But there's a chance that they can still run the table. Who knows? J.T. Barrett is capable enough, and he knows this offense. He's been in the program for a year, got a chance to redshirt last year, took a ton of first-team reps in the spring when he was splitting reps with Cardale Jones, has taken a ton of first-team reps in camp. So it would be a lot worse if Braxton Miller was the first-team quarterback all of spring, all of camp, and all of a sudden this happened. He had a catastrophic injury, and boom, they weren't ready for it. Not that you'd like to see this, but they're still a little bit more ready than they normally would be. So we'll see what the MRI says later today. Hopefully Braxton's not out for the entire season. Hopefully it's a situation where J.T. Barrett can play the first half of the season and Braxton can ease his way back in the latter half of the season. That's what I'm hoping for. But if it's J.T. Barrett the entire way, hey, this will be the third freshman quarterback that starts for Ohio State in the last 7 years, which is amazing when you consider Ohio State went 30 years between freshman starting quarterback. Arch Schleister in 1978, Terrell Pryor in 2008, 30 years. And then they'll have 3 in the last 7 years with Terrell Pryor, Braxton Miller, and J.T. Barrett. So I'm excited to see what J.T. Barrett can do. At the same time, I'm bummed about Braxton, but I'm excited to see what J.T. can do.
Alex, I want to go to you now. You always have a finger on the pulse of both the fans and your sources. First, what are you hearing from your people these days about the possible severity of Braxton's injury and kind of your chance to put the whole deal in context as of 7:20 a.m. East Coast time?
Yeah, Dan, well, I'll start with what I'm hearing. I've talked to multiple sources close to the team, and the fact of the matter is nobody knows exactly what the severity of the injury is. There's some people out there, saying that Braxton's kind of feeling that it's the worst and that it could be out for the year, but we've also seen Braxton in the past, and this is no knock on him, kind of exaggerate injuries a little bit. So there's that factor, and, I think Buckeye fans are hoping this is one of those Purdue situations from a couple years ago where it seemed like Braxton could have missed a few games and he was out there practicing a couple days later. I talked to some other people who seen that, I talked to, some sources close to the coaches, and apparently some coaches were pretty upbeat last night about the potential for the injury. So, again, it's all over the spectrum. I think, as Dave said, we need and Steve said, we need to see what the MRI tells this morning and then go from there. But, as Dave said, Ohio State, the world's not over. Yes, it definitely makes getting to the national championship and the college football playoff that much harder without Braxton Miller. There's no doubt he's a dynamic player, and in my opinion, he was their only sure thing. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott looks good, but at the same time, he hasn't played a complete season at running back, so he's an unknown. The wide receiver situation, you got Devin Smith and Evan Spencer back, and then you have some of these new guys, but at the end of the day, that's still not a completely proven unit, as well as Jalen Marshall, Dontre Wilson. They're replacing 4 or 5 starters on the offensive line. They lost their 2 best defensive players in first-round picks, Bradley Roby and Ryan Shazier. And while the defense looks good in practice, again, that's another unknown until they actually go out on the field and do it. So Braxton Miller, to me, was the only known commodity at the most important position on the field at quarterback, and you lose that commodity, and now everything is unknown for Ohio State. Could they go out and win 10, 11, 12 games, run the table? Absolutely. Could they come out and only win 6 or 7 games? Absolutely. At the end of the day, you have a lot of unknowns going into the season. But as Dave said, I think J.T. Barrett is someone who's being undervalued by a lot of fans out there into the panic. I covered him in high school. He's a tremendous player. I think more importantly, he's a better leader. And again, talking to sources close to the team, and maybe you can read a little bit more about it in the boarding house today. But J.T. Barrett is someone that Tom Herman absolutely loves and thinks can get the job done. The arm strength may not be there, but he has tremendous accuracy. He knows how to distribute the ball. And a lot of coaches on the team feel that maybe the offense may actually be a little bit more balanced with J.T. Barrett in there versus Braxton Miller. You may not get the explosive running plays that you're going to get out of Miller, and you may have a few more mistakes as you would out of any freshman playing his first season behind center. But at the end of the day, J.T. Barrett could end up being a better distributor of the football than Braxton Miller would be for this offense.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really excellent point there, and that Barrett is the first hand-picked quarterback to run this offense by Tom Herman. So that's promising. And then I don't think there's any question that, the name we hear a lot about Barrett is actually Troy Smith when you go with comparison, so that's always promising. Steve, Urban Meyer's dealings with the press are different than Jim Tressel, especially when it comes to, media access. So I'm wondering what your expectations are for today and how Ohio State may handle a situation like this, considering the fact they were already planning on meeting with the media this morning, and then you have the bombshell drop last night.
Yeah, my understanding is there is a practice this morning. I think it's a single session today for Ohio State this morning, and then they were going to have interviews at midday, and yesterday was about noontime when we got several of the coaches and several players, and they basically have split the team up into thirds. We had 3 position groups yesterday, 3 today, and 3 tomorrow. I know Dave is planning on going there and being there to cover today's event. It's supposed to be offensive line coach Ed Warner. I would have to think that perhaps Urban Meyer will do a very quick briefing of what he knows as of that hour when that happens, and that they'll keep it very simple.
I doubt it. I doubt that'll happen.
Really, Dave? You don't think they're going to address it at all, Dave?
I would be surprised if they do. I bet it'll be more like SID Jerry Emig will send out an email. I'll be shocked if I go over there and Urban Meyer does an impromptu press conference. I would love to see it. But, yeah, as Steve said, we're scheduled to get Ed Warner and a few offensive linemen, and then defensively we're scheduled to get Luke Fickell and some linebackers, Kerry Combs, and some cornerbacks. And normally that'd be huge, talking to some of the corners, some of the linebackers. But now it's like quarterback is what everybody wants to talk about. Ed Warner has the title of co-offensive coordinator, so maybe he'll answer some questions. But yeah, I'll be surprised. Now, maybe Steve's right, but I'll be surprised if we get Urban Meyer today.
I don't think it'd be right to put Ed Warner in that position to where he has to be the source on this. I think that
I agree, yeah.
Even it's first of all, it's not his player, and it just, he is involved certainly with the offense, obviously, but I just think that this needs to come from Urban Meyer, and I think that the way he deals with the media is obviously you get him about once a week for 15 minutes, and that's about it. So he I think he's the one who needs to step up here. I mean, it's great having a superstar coach until you have to deal with the superstar coach, and he doesn't feel meeting with the media is one of his important things that he has to do. Tressel, at the beginning, was all over the place with the media and bent over backwards. And then I think even he took an approach and he even told people privately, why do I even bother doing this? At some point. And so I think meeting with the media is not one of Meyer's things, but I think today is obviously a day where he needs to step forward and say something, even, if it's later in the day or whatever. They need to provide some information on where things are headed, I think, and I don't think that, obviously, Braxton's HIPAA rights and all that stuff are involved as well. I mean, he is a pro prospect, and how much information do you want out there, and so on and so forth, but it's a very complex situation with a lot of layers, but I think somebody at the Urban Meyer level needs to step up today and let people know what's going on.
I agree. That's what should happen. I just don't think that's what will happen. I think probably he'll be quoted in a press release. I agree with Steve. That's what should happen. And Ed Warner certainly should not be the spokesperson for the entire team and the entire Braxton Miller situation. So we'll see. But I expect an email from the Sports Information Department later, maybe quoting Urban Meyer. We'll see what happens, though.
There's no question that there is some uncertainty in the future. We hope you've enjoyed this impromptu get-together of the brightest minds that are out there when it comes to Ohio football coverage. Steve Helwagen, Dave Biddle, and Alex Gleitman. I appreciate it, guys. keep it locked into Bucknuts all day. Obviously, this is right in our wheelhouse. There's no place you'd rather be or need to be other than Bucknuts now until this entire situation gets sorted out and we know where the season is headed. So keep it locked, and we'll be around. Have a good one, Bucknuts.